Osiris.
This podcast is In the Loop, the Legion of Osiris podcasts. Osiris is creating a community that connects people like you with live experiences and podcasts about artists and topics you love. Get in the loop at osirispod.com.
Support for this podcast comes from Zuri Food, all natural, all human-grade dog food, offering 4 different diets to optimize nutrition for your pup. And now, 2 different kinds of dog treats as well. Visit www.zurifood.com today to order yours, because pups are people too.
We are rolling.
Yeah.
Joe Polise.
I'm here, man.
You're on the show, bud. How's it going?
Good, man. Really good. Good to see you. Good to be in LA. I was, when I'm driving down, it's like, and thinking about like coming to hang out, I'm like, yeah, man, you are my oldest friend.
Yeah.
From kindergarten through like 3rd grade, and then you moved away, and I assumed we would meet up at some point in the future, but it was through a really interesting way of figuring out through a mutual friend that I met at a Stuco camp in high school that you were a Phish fan and I was a Phish fan. And
so let's tell that story. So flashback to, I don't know, we may have met in the 80s, or maybe it was like 90, 91.
Yeah.
In kindergarten.
Yeah.
And I forget, were we in the same... I don't think we were in the same kindergarten class.
We were in the same 1st grade class.
1st grade.
With Mrs. Benson.
Mrs. Benson, that's right. That's right. But we knew each other in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And
we'll get through sports and stuff like that.
Right, soccer, basketball, baseball, probably. So we're in like early grade school.
Yeah. And I remember you were born in Vermont.
Correct. Yeah, that's
in
right.
'85. Because we're both.
And that
85.
would have been, and I moved to Kansas right after that. So that's interesting. You would remember that because.
And I remembered that once I realized you were a Phish fan. I was like, well, yeah, that makes sense because he's from Vermont. And then I wondered if your parents were Phish fans.
My dad is the one who kind of mentioned Phish to me the very first time I heard about Phish, because he said, this is in like 94, 95.
Yeah.
He said, this band from Burlington, which is where, me and my brother were born. It's where the family lived. So there's this band that used to tour. They used to play around Burlington, and they're like really coming up, and they're like really doing big things. And this is like right in the mid '90s when they're like getting into arenas and stadiums and stuff. And I think he got me a live one for Christmas or for birthday or something.
Really? Huh.
I think. That was the first Phish I heard. And when I first heard it, I didn't know what I was hearing. I was like, there's like a chorus of people singing on stage, and are there like 4 keyboard players? And Trey's guitar didn't even sound like guitar to me.
Yeah.
It didn't sound, I was like, that's just not a regular guitar. What's going on? There's got to be something I'm missing here, because the sound was so complex. But that's when I got into the band. I guess let's rewind a minute. So I moved away in 4th grade, at the very end of 4th grade. Moved to Charlottesville, Virginia. And I never thought I would see anybody from Kansas ever again.
Yeah.
And that was, a few years went by, and I'm in the 9th grade in Charlottesville at Albemarle High School. And my good friend Margaret Murray, shout out Margaret Murray, she came back, all these students came back from a retreat. And what was it called?
It was it was NLC, it was National Leadership Camp, and people from all over the country like went to various camps, but this one was in Lake Tahoe.
To bring it full circle.
Yeah. And then I like met these two it was Lauren Neese and Margaret, and they were from Charlottesville, and they were like, and I was into Phish at that point.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh yeah, we also like Phish. And so we kind of like built this friendship, and then it was this like, and that was the summer of 2002. And Phish wasn't touring at that point. They were on hiatus. And then right when I get back from Tahoe, they had announced that they were doing New Year's at the Garden and then 3 nights at Hampton. And so me and my best friend Jason scored tickets to Hampton. And we were like, we were in high school. We were going into our junior year. And I remember like telling Lauren that I was coming for Phish, and she like ended up telling you because she was like, oh, Andy and Joe would get along.
Yeah.
And then she said, hey, I have a friend that's coming in from Kansas that is going to go to the Phish shows at Hampton. And I forget what you said. You said something like, oh, what's his name? I probably know him. I used to live in Kansas. And she said Joe Polise.
As soon as she said Joe Polise,
and you were like, you could. It was like this. What the hell is going on? So then we got hooked up through AOL.
Yeah,
like instant messenger
days.
And then you decided. Then we talked pretty regularly, and then you went to. You came out to Kansas City for that 2003 Kansas City show.
Yep.
And then, ever since then, it's primarily like, if since you've moved to LA, it's like whenever they're in LA, I come out and stay with you. And so, we've done almost every LA show except for one at both of them at Hollywood Bowl, and then like in 2014 when they played the Forum, I couldn't make it out.
Did I run into you at the Hollywood Bowl?
I ran into you.
Yeah.
Right. But I had stayed elsewhere. But
yeah, and I've been out to hang with you and see Phish at Dick's.
Yeah.
A couple times, and back in 2003, we went to that show at Sandstone or whatever it's called in Bonner Springs.
Yeah,
that was my second.
It was Sand. Well, I think Sand. Yeah.
That was like my second
Verizon
show
Center or something. Yeah, and that was an interesting. I look at that show because I had such a. There were moments at Hampton when they came back that were so incredible. Like the possum and the Contact from the second night,
right?
Where
I remember that Contact,
and I was like third row for that. Like I was close.
Yeah.
Like we got in early. We were 17. We didn't know any better. We were like, oh, let's get up there. And it was such a cool experience that like, I don't know. When they came to Kansas City that one time, I was. They didn't play. They didn't have the same flow, the same energy, and I didn't particularly. It wasn't like high on my list of shows. But then there are a lot of people that I've met through the years that they claim they're like, man, that 2003 Kansas City show is one of the best of the tours, and
I loved that show. I mean, it was my second Phish show,
right?
And I was thrilled,
right.
But there are some highlights in that show.
There are
at the end of the Wolfmans. They do this thing where they gradually slow down the tempo from the Wolfman's tempo, and they do a solid 8 or 16 bars of one tempo. Then they all collectively slow the tempo down, and they do that like 6 or 7 times to where it's like so slow that it's hardly even a melody anymore.
Right.
And it's amazing. So there's also they played Makisupa Policeman.
Yep.
You're the policeman.
Right.
And Trey says in the middle of Makisupa, our head of security was arrested tonight, and told that story.
Yeah.
It was just a funny show, Limb by Limb was great that night.
We had a good tweezer that night.
People were buying tickets at the box office on the way in. There was nobody there. It was like...
Yeah, I remember it was like, I was used to... I had, I think, a couple extra, like, lawn tickets. And I remember... going up to some, like, people had their fingers in the air, and they were like, I think I paid $40 for that ticket, and they were like, yeah, I'm looking to spend 10. And I had a tough time getting rid of that ticket. I think I sold it for probably like 20 or $30 or something like that, and couldn't recoup all my money. Yeah. That was the first time I had experienced the trials and tribulations of having extra tickets and no one buying, and having the freak out.
Not so much a problem anymore.
Yeah. It depends. I mean, and that's the other thing. It's like there are shows where, it'll sell out for some reason, and you can't get rid of a ticket. And then there are times where it's not sold out, and then it, like, oh, we'll get tickets, I'm not worried about it, and then it sells out, and then it's like this mad scramble to find extras.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's gauging the ticket purchasing process of what shows are going to be hard shows can, it's difficult, but it's all just a big math problem.
Yeah. So you've been on this whole tour so far?
So far, yeah. We spent a couple days in Yosemite, and then made it up to Tahoe. Met my best friend Jason. His dad's a high roller at Harrah's, and so he gets the ticket hookup deal, and so we get to sit in the box seat, and free food, free drinks all night, your own separate bathroom. And it was funny because I saw Tom Marshall in Vegas in 2013, and he was hanging around in the casino, and he was up in the box in 2013, and I was listening to his podcast, and I was like, man, we get the same. He's got the same deal that I've got, and he coincidentally was in the box.
Nice.
With us the whole show, and so it was
shout out Tom Marshall.
Yeah, and they just did that episode where they talked a lot about Story of the Ghost, and they played a lot of Story of the Ghost tunes in first night at Tahoe, and so it was like it's cool to look over and see Tom.
Yeah,
like
the guy who wrote the songs.
Have this experience, and it's like, wow, it was pretty surreal. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then we trekked up to the gorge, met up with some friends, and the gorge was amazing. Like, I'd say it's one of my favorite places to see Phish, and always make it a point to go to the gorge if you can. And then we drove down to San Francisco after that, and saw those two shows. Had a great time in San Francisco. And drove down yesterday from there, and we're here. But musically, I would say that the band is playing really, really well.
Yeah.
And that's my perception.
Same here.
And I think that their jams are really firing on all cylinders. I feel like I haven't seen them jam. I mean, they did it. They jammed like this last summer at the Baker's Dozen, I felt like. But tonight, this whole tour, it's like they're just picking up where they left off the night before. And I think that's really when it's a good tour. I think this is a really good tour. And I've been able to get like good seats every night. Usually down on the floor. And it's just been, I don't know, it's been loud. It's been, the energy's great. The lights are, absolutely love Kuroda's lights this year and last year. They're so, like when they move down and they start to rotate on stage, it is just the coolest thing. And they're like almost right on top of you, and they're like on top of the band, and I don't know, it's just great. It's just good to be back, and and it's sad that I'm leaving the tour after LA and missing the rest of the East Coast, but work calls and stuff like that, and can't do everything, but
shit, man,
Lord wishes you could.
You're doing a lot more than most people.
But so that I'm a teacher, and so my job lends itself to being able to take that time in the summer and get on the road and see a good part of the country. So
Yeah, the West Coast thing is automatically a different vibe from the beginning.
Right.
And then there's no one-offs. It's all these multiple dates.
Right.
Which is cool because they're just kind of setting up shop for a couple of days.
Right.
That gives them time to settle into each venue.
Mm-hmm. And they've played all these places before.
Yeah.
So they know
a lot.
What to expect. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what's nice. It's like, I love, and all the venues on this tour I love. Like, you can't beat them.
Yeah.
I think they're the best of the tour, in my opinion. And I've been to all the other ones that they're playing at, on the East Coast. Like, I like Alpharetta. Alpharetta is a really cool place. The place in Austin, I wish it was more centrally located in Austin. It's kind of like on the outskirts of town. And it's okay. It's just hot.
Yeah.
And then they're playing the Camden, and they haven't played in Camden for a while. That's a cool place. I was the only time I was in Camden was on the lawn. I haven't been in the pavilion, but I'm sure it's fine.
I've never been to Camden, but I remember listening to the live Camden broadcast on everybody's car radio at Coventry. Because those of us who had made it into Coventry early enough, and they were broadcasting it on the Bunny or whatever radio station it was up there.
And they played. Did they do a Yem? I felt like they did a Yem.
I don't remember. That's a part of.
There was like something where
there
was a song. I felt like it was Yem, and they. It could be completely wrong, but they like played it, and it's like, man, if there's one song I wanted to hear at Coventry, it was Yem.
Maybe not though.
But then they got it. Then they like played it, and I was like, oh, cool. We get to hear it.
Yeah.
And then they took Coventry that's like a whole other podcast.
It really is, and maybe it needs that,
Maybe,
or maybe not. Maybe we just leave it alone forever.
Well, this is a question. Like, did you, when they were done with Coventry, did you when you're walking out, did you think it would be the last time you'd walk out of a Phish show?
I did.
Really? I kind of did too.
Just the whole vibe. The weekend was so brutal and final, and the
weather did not help.
Well, it was just it was just like a
disaster.
sign from the gods. Like, this is pretty low down. This is rough stuff for our guys. This is rough stuff here. On everybody, fans, the band,
the crew.
Just what a nightmare. So I was walking out of there. I'd spent 13 hours in my van getting out of there,
right?
Just to get out.
Oh yeah, getting out. We had everything packed up. We were ready to go, and then all of a sudden, we sat on the runway until we started moving at 5 p.m. that Monday.
I've got chairs around here with mud from Coventry on them somewhere. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I got home, so my car was packed. I was ready. I was going straight to college after Coventry. My car was
packed.
Same
here, yeah.
And we drove 24 hours straight back to Kansas City. We get back to KC at 5 p.m. on Tuesday. And then I got home. I get out of the car, and my mom looks at me, and she's like, and I remember I brought a pair of shorts, some Columbia shorts that had the liners in them. I didn't even have an extra pair of underwear. I had those. I had a pair of pants that went over them. I had a blue t-shirt, and I had a jacket, and that was it. And my camping gear. I didn't bring anything because it was all packed up in my car to go to college. I'm like, well, I don't want to have to go home and do laundry. I want to get home and drive straight to college and get up there and move in. Yeah. And I get out of the car, and my mother looks at me, and she's like, take everything off, you jump in the shower, and she's like, and I'm throwing your shoes away. And I had these mud covered Birkenstocks, and they were already on their last leg, but I'm like, no, I want to keep these. And then she threw them away, and I'm like, can I take them to college? Yeah. And she's like, no. And I'm like, come on. But do you remember the piles of shoes at Coventry that everyone just left their shoes there?
Yeah.
My best friend Jason left his shoes, and I'm like, well, these are the only shoes I have, and I gotta be able to walk into gas stations and restaurants on the way home. So that's why I didn't leave my shoes at Coventry.
What a nightmare!
God,
just Did you make it in with the car?
Made it in with the car. We got in
Yeah,
line like
same here.
Thursday at like 11.
Yeah, same. We were like 5 a.m. on
Yeah,
Thursday.
you were close. And then we got in line at 11, and then we finally got into camp by midnight. And so we were in the car for like 13 hours.
We were
getting in.
We were like first 50 cars in line.
Yeah.
And once they opened the gates, they like funneled the first handful of cars into this lot on the left side. So we're sitting in this lot. They're like, just everybody wait here. We're trying to figure out what the hell's going on. We waited for like all day Thursday in this like side lot before they said, all right, basically it's a free for all. But we made it in.
Yeah.
And, had all our stuff,
Man.
tent and clothes and stuff. Like a lot of people walking around with just whatever they could carry for the weekend,
Well, and I mean, my brother I think they walked 20 miles to get in. And it was such...
Yeah.
I mean, and they had to leave their car and leave all their gear and leave all their like stuff. And they just came in. It was truly, I think that was the most attended Phish concert I've been to.
Think so?
There were so many people. I mean, I felt like it was. I had heard somewhere that it was like over 100,000 people that were there.
Yeah, I would believe it.
But I don't know. It was a lot. I mean, it was much bigger than like, Festival 8. It was much bigger than Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because I went to those. And those, I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of people here, but there weren't nearly as many as Coventry. And I really feel like they learned a lot about where they should do a festival based on the traffic. Because when you think about like Clifford Ball to Coventry, all those have these stories of, well, you're gonna sit in traffic for like 5 to 20 hours. And that's, I mean, it's fun, kind of. It's part of the experience, but it's also like, man, I just want to get in and like get set up shop. And I felt like when they changed it to, where they do Coachella, for Festival 8, that was like a breeze.
What a fucking awesome location.
Oh God. I mean, and I wish they would do it again.
I know. Yeah.
I wish they would. It's such a cool place to see a concert. You have on-site camping.
New Year's would be incredible there.
New Year's would be great.
The weather would be fine.
Right. It gets cold at night, though.
It gets cold at night, but that doesn't stop.
I agree. I feel like New Year's would be a cool thing to do there, but it's just conducive to having a festival, And but yeah.
So, have you been keeping track of your show count?
Yeah. So as a math guy, I do. I'm at 145.
Cool.
And so, at the end of Dick's, that'll be 150, and we'll see what's in store for the fall. But
150 at Dick's, huh?
Yeah, 150 at Dick's.
That's great, man.
So,
Sunday at Dick's will be my 30th show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Like, I remember in my first year of college in Boston, and I was in some class talking to some students, and I think I had a Phish patch on my backpack.
Yeah.
And somebody was asking about it, and they're like, I was telling them about Phish, and this is like in 2005.
Yeah.
So Phish was sort of in limbo at that point.
Yeah.
And I was explaining them, and they were like, well, how many times have you... I was saying, like, the fans go to a lot of shows. How many times have you seen him? I was like, oh, I mean, not that many times, like 10.
Yeah.
And they were blown away.
Yeah. And,
like,
Yeah. And you tell... I've seen Widespread Panic, I think I'm over 50 for them. But they would always tour in the Midwest.
Exactly. Yeah, you were in prime,
every
spot.
season, spring, summer, fall, I could drive 4 hours and catch a run of shows like during the week. It was great. So, like, I saw a lot of Panic. I've seen Pearl Jam Over 10 times. I think they're at like 14 or something like that. And then My Morning Jacket, I've seen them like, I think somewhere like the same amount that I've seen Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
And so, and I say the same thing to people. They're like, and I've met people that have been to like, 50, 60 Jacket shows. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of Jacket shows.
Yeah, I went and saw My Morning Jacket here at the Shrine in LA. Awesome venue. And they put on a great show, of course. But I remember meeting some people at the show, and they were kind of asking me, like, how many times have you seen My Morning Jacket? And I didn't even hit me. I didn't realize that they're the kind of band that has a following like Phish would, where they want to go to as many shows as they possibly can.
Yeah.
And,
And I mean, and they are so, I love My Morning Jacket.
They put on a show with the kind of energy that you get from Phish.
Yeah.
And especially like early 90s Phish in the theaters that My Morning Jacket plays.
Yeah. But they're not as exploratory.
No, but their
be.
Highs are just as high, I've found.
I mean, I did 3 nights in Denver this past New Year's at the First Bank Center, and they were like, it wasn't even a question because I live in Colorado now. The Jacket's playing 3 nights, or do I try and go to the Garden for Phish for New Year's? And for me, like, the Jacket's so far up there in their ability to play that I'm like, oh, Jacket if it's a hometown show,
right,
and I don't have to travel, that counts for a lot. I'm definitely doing that. And we had a blast, man. Like, they were so much fun. And all like the Denver crew with like Mark and Tweety and all those guys, they haven't seen My Morning Jacket, and some of them have seen Jim James, and it's one of those, like, and my brother kind of did the same thing for me. It's like, hey, are you going to the Jacket? And they're like, no, I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah. And it's like, look, you need to go see My Morning Jacket. Like, they are that good. And Mark went, and Mark was like, he's like, I'm never missing My Morning Jacket again if they come through town. So that's how I felt after the last time I saw them. And I saw them at Bonnaroo in like 2003 or something. Yeah, that's when they were like wild. They were, they all had huge, giant, long hair, and they're just headbanging metal guys. They were great, but at the time I had no idea. Yeah, and they were pretty underground. I saw them open up for Pearl Jam in 2006, and they were so. I was like, yeah, these guys are good, but I'm like amped to see Pearl Jam, and then. My brother got into them and was like forced me to go to a show, and it was just the Jacket. So I wasn't like thinking about seeing like Pearl Jam. I was like, I'll go see the Jacket, and just by themselves, and I was blown away. I mean, they are rock stars. Like those guys are awesome. So well, Joe, what are you looking forward to tonight at the Forum? I'm looking forward to having a seat because I haven't had a seat. Since Tahoe. And Tahoe, I had a seat, but I was also sitting on the floor too. So, like, I'm excited to like go in at a reasonable, whenever I feel like it, and sitting down and having the ability to sit down and relax. I think we're going to have a good view of the lights tonight. I think we will. So our tickets for the Forum in 2015, we were on the floor. We had awesome seats. 2016, we were like in the 100s on the side, and now we're in the 200s. So our tickets seem to be progressively getting worse. But that was all that was available, man. It was crazy. Getting really tickets this summer was kind of a tricky thing. But I'm totally okay with it. I'm excited for some room. I like having a seat too. And I think the Forum, I don't think there's a bad seat in the house. Like, the sound is great. Like, the place is built for music. I'm really excited. I love going to shows there. And I'm excited to. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like waking up and realizing, like, oh yeah, I'm seeing Phish tonight. Like, yeah, it just hit me. It's one of the best things. Yesterday afternoon, I got home from work and I was like, "Oh shit, man, Phish tomorrow." We're really doing it, Harry. You know?
All right. Well,
So-
we'll catch up with everyone tomorrow after tonight's show. And
Sounds good. We'll have notes.
everybody have fun. Be safe at the show. See y'all.
See ya.
Okay, we're back.
We're back in business.
It's Saturday.
Yeah.
We just saw a great Phish show last night.
Really good Phish show. Yeah, I took notes
Yeah.
for the I remember I used to take notes way back in the day. In like 2.0 era, and then stopped, in 3.0, and it was kind of nice to
Yeah.
have them.
Be able to look at the set.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was extremely high energy from the jump with Chalk Dust.
Yeah.
The segues were all amazing. I mean, they're all really on point, and they flowed really well. Everything made sense. Set list was just incredible.
Yeah.
Great set list. What do you got on your notes there?
So, I think, the highlights first set, as far as like the jams go, I felt like Everything's Right was really good. That was
Yeah.
kind of long, I felt like.
Yeah.
But, and then Wolfman's Brother, and then Sand. I felt those were the ones that, like, deserve a go back through and listen to. And then, like, the whole second set is just awesome. Like, the Blaze on Jam was really good. The segue into Down with Disease, and then that was strong. And then right into Simple, and I love Simple. It's like it's turned into one of my one of my favorites that I like to hear. And then went into a really good Ghost, and so that was all just like one song, basically.
Yeah,
and
they just didn't stop.
And that was when. It was one of those sets where you really weren't able to go to the bathroom, I felt like.
Right.
Like,
the lowest point for me, energy-wise, in the whole night was during Horn. That was the lowest
really
energy of all the songs.
Yeah.
And other than that, it was like everything was a little bit up-tempo.
Yeah.
Trey looked like he was having a great time.
So can you tell do they sound different to you? Like,
They sound different to me since Baker's Dozen.
Yeah. I agree, but yeah, this tour and the Trey's using some sort of new rig.
Yeah,
and it's a lot more, and he's using a lot of pedals, and he's using a lot more different effects. And there are moments when he's up there messing around. I didn't tell you this last night. There are moments where he's like messing around, and his legs are moving in such a way that. And I'm watching him. There are like just little tiny moments where he looks like Nigel from Spinal Tap, and it's like it's funny. And then and every now and he's experimenting, and like there are sounds that come out that you can tell he like hits it, and then like it's not what he wants.
Yeah,
and he's like
and he's on
quickly
it.
like.
There was something last night that he was doing a few times where he would play a high note and then hit one of the pedals, and the note would then descend like 3 or 4 octaves.
Yeah,
and it seemed like that was a delay and not something he was playing. It seemed like that was one note that happened to fall 4 octaves over 10 seconds.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Yeah, I agree. There was, and he's doing that, and it's kind of, and it just sounds different. Like it's something we've never heard before, and it's refreshing, and it's nice, and yeah, I've really
Venue was
Really liked
awesome
it.
as usual.
Yeah, the sound in that play. The sound was. I mean, we were up in the 200s, like back page side in the corner, and we had pretty much the entire row to
Yep.
ourselves.
A lot of room up there.
Tons of room.
Great view of just the whole room. You can see everything.
And like the way that like there's like that ledge that goes from like the seats down into the floor, like provided this like the way that the lights were able to like hit that, and it was cool how it just hit like the base of that, so it like created this like cool like dome effect, like over the crowd, like the beams of light. It was just like the lights are really awesome. Yeah. Like they're so good.
Yeah, and there's no distractions in the forum. There's no flags of sports teams.
Yeah.
There's no advertisements.
Yeah.
It's just the room, the arena. And
there are aspects of that room that like kind of remind me of Hampton.
Big time.
Yeah. Just the way it's set up. I can't remember if you can walk out on like the terrace of Hampton, because I feel like there's like this bank around the arena where it's like a walkway, and I feel like you can go out there, but I can't remember. I haven't been to Hampton in 15 years or something like that, so but it's cool like that. It's got this LA feel to it where you go outside and they've got all like the food vendors and the drink vendors on that outskirts of that walkway outside.
Yeah.
And so it does, it's not as congested on the inside.
Oh man, everything was just, we made it into our section like
in 5 minutes,
in seconds, and then we were heading out, and like
we're right
2 minutes later we're in the car and we're leaving the venue.
It was great. Personally I like the Forum. I think the Forum is a cool place. It's this historic venue. You go inside and you see all these people that have played there, and you're like, dang, this is.
We had a chance to catch up with Brian from Beyond the Pond and Tim from Daddy Unscripted, other Osiris podcasters. It was nice to meet those guys. Say hi to them.
Yeah.
Also ran into the guys from The Great Divide, Phish tribute band, friends of mine. And tonight, what do you think's going on tonight?
I think we'll get, like, I feel like maybe there's a possibility for a Yem. Whether they're going to, like, put that into the rotation as much as I feel like in years past they haven't played Yem and Fluffhead and, like, Lizards as, like,
definitely,
frequently.
Right.
And maybe they're just, really treating the West Coast to those tunes, but I don't know. I feel like the potential to hear Yem is there. Potential for 2001, I think, is there, since they're now like officially doing repeats. I don't know. I'd love to hear a Sneak and Sally. That's always my favorite.
I'm always looking for a Maze.
Yeah. We got Maze in San Francisco, so that might be our second night, I think, San Francisco. Maybe first night. Can't remember.
Cool. Well, we will check in with everybody tomorrow after the show tonight at the Forum. Have fun, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, Joe, here we are. It's Sunday. 2 great Phish shows in the can. For you, what is it, 9, 10?
Yeah, it was 9 after last night. So, yeah, my tour, portion of this summer tour is over, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And normally I do like the latter end of the tour. I've done that the last 2 years, so I get to see the end of the tour. And I really, really wish I was continuing on.
Yeah.
But, work calls, duty calls, can't do it all. I'm really happy, actually, that I'm not doing the drive.
True, yeah.
From here to Austin. The last time I did that it was painful going through that part of the country.
It's going to be hotter than hell, too.
Yeah, it was hot. You drive through these oil fields in West Texas, and it was not very good. So, but yeah, man, this tour has been really a good tour, and I think, music aside, I feel like I met a lot of people that it was either their first time seeing the band.
Or first time in a long time.
First time in a long time. And, I have with any piece of art, everyone has their own opinion and own perspective of it. And I think that's what, a lot of people sometimes overlook and don't understand. But I realized, I have a certain perspective of seeing these guys 10 to 15 times every year. That's usually the average show rate. And I've been doing this since 2000, for 18 years. And so when I think about that, and I look at other people, I was at the Gorge with this guy he'd never even heard a Phish song. And he was thrown in the immersion of 3 nights at the Gorge. And to watch him go through that experience, and he sat in front of me every single night, was really cool, because I haven't felt that in a very long time. And to see him go through that, and he would turn to me after certain songs, and he would say, that was a really good one, or that was a really, I didn't care for that one. And the one that he liked the most, which I thought was so interesting, was The Birds from the Halloween album in 14. And that was just, it was, that kind of stuff was, mind-blowing to me. And, that's what and so I kind of, since having that experience, watching someone go through that experience kind of made me watch the shows differently.
Yeah, it brings you back
and
to
really
that.
kind of made me think about, what if I was seeing this for the first time ever and I had no experience with Phish. And so
and this tour has had a youthful energy. The band is that has the same energy that a lot of 1.0 shows had.
Yeah,
it seems like
it seems like it. It was just kind of, I don't know. There were a lot of new faces in the crowd and people you'd recognize at shows. And
we were running into people all weekend.
Yeah, but it was, it's been a really, really good tour. I really had a fun couple weeks.
What'd you think of the set list last night?
So, I thought it started out strong. I turned to you after, because they did Julius and Susie Greenberg, and I was like, maybe this is only an encore.
A set of all encores. For the first set.
But I thought, the first 4 songs especially, the energy was really high. Timber House sounded really good.
Was cool, and the jam and Timber was.
Soul Shakedown Party was just, I thought it was perfectly placed, and everybody kind of
always sets a vibe.
Yeah,
that song.
Yeah, I thought 555. I really like 555. That's a good.
It's funky.
It's a good tune. Your Pet Cat was good. My brother loves this song. He jogs to it. He heard it at Dick's a couple years ago and was like,
the cat samples are so loud.
I know.
Oh my god.
I know. Yeah. And then closing it out with Bathtub Gin. That was really strong.
Yeah, the gin was a good one.
So I really enjoyed the first set. It was good. Nothing too crazy. How long was No Man in No Man's Land? I felt like it was like 10 minutes. I felt like it didn't like really go into the depths of, you know.
So Soul Shakedown Party and then Soul Planet in the second set. I was waiting for My Soul encore.
Ooh, yeah, that'd have been good. I haven't done that yet. Soul Planet's cool. You know, I hadn't. You know, for whatever, I didn't listen to the one from New Year's, and so I hadn't heard it yet. And I heard it for the first time in Tahoe, and I really dig that tune. I think that's good. But yeah, second set, the Jabu into Fuego was really good. The Jam in Fuego was, I thought, spectacular. Birds was short. Birds was only like 6 minutes. And then like a good meat stick. They could play meat stick all night, and I'd be like really happy with it. And you know what song I really like is Wingsuit. I absolutely love that song. And I started to, and like a couple years ago, I started to like get into like, I mean, would you consider Wingsuit a ballad?
It's heavy. It gets really heavy towards the end. Heavy, you know?
But you know, it's slower, and I've started to really like the slow, you know, melodic tunes that they do as opposed to other stuff. I for whatever reason I dig that sound that they've got, and I like that energy, and I just kind of like sit there and soak it in. But yeah, Wingsuit, for whatever reason, and they always come out of it after like a really cool jam, and it just kind of surprises you.
The placement of that song is always interesting.
Yeah. And then Sparkle Character Zero Encore, that was good. Character Zero had a lot of energy. But yeah, it was a good run of shows. I'm really intrigued to see what they do for the rest of the tour.
Yeah.
And how this shapes out. So I'm excited to, you know, watch from the comfort of my couch next weekend for the Alpharetta shows, and
and then I'll see you in Denver for Dick's, right?
Yeah,
awesome.
We'll be there.
I think there's going to be some kind of Osiris meetup going on during that weekend too.
Yeah.
But Joe, awesome hanging with you this weekend, man.
Thanks for everything. It's been fun down here in SoCal.
Always fun to see Phish with you.
Yeah, agreed.
And we'll see you in a few weeks.
Sounds good.
All right, man.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having me.